I often have conversations, and that's where these come from, right? And recently I had given a young woman some advice when she had said that she has a guy at work who insists on hugging her all the time. And that often when she's standing in a row of people and they're shaking all the guys' hands, when they get to her, they feel the need to hug her. And when she has said something about feeling like these inappropriate touching shoulders and touching her and hugging her, her boss basically kind of wrote it off, even though she's a Gen X female. And this young woman, clearly a millennial. So first, the advice that I didn't give the young woman, then the advice for the boss and all you other bosses out there, okay, male or female, because I've known men who have been put in these situations. I had a female boss that did this to some of the younger men, where she would hang on them, or she would, touch their shoulders, and it was inappropriate and made them uncomfortable. But for a young woman right now, where you've got social media clowns putting out your body, my choice, you bosses need to be better, seriously. But first of all, my advice to the young woman was lean back, dagger eyes. Before you do that, put your hand out there as he's coming up. You see him shaking everybody else's hand, put your hand out. If he then grabs your hand and goes in for the hug, you jerk your hand away. If he still insists on going in for the hug, then dagger eyes and lean back. If for some reason he just bypasses that completely, pushes your hand aside and goes in for the bear hug, then lean back, dagger eyes. Okay? And she laughed, and I hope she takes this advice as she sees this. But on the flip side, getting back to you bosses and you managers and you HR people, nobody wants to be touched without their permission. Period. I do not touch people without their permission. When I meet someone, or I even know them, if I want to touch them, I ask permission to touch their arm. I ask permission. And that's the way everyone should be taught how to behave. Period. Okay? And let me explain why the situation where her Gen X boss basically said, it's not a big deal. I put up with it. You can put up with it. First of all, that was my boomer female boss too. And no, I thought she was an asshole. She did it to men. She wasn't doing it to me, but she expected me to put up with it when men did it to me. No, no, no. And let me explain why. Okay, fine for the men, because most of them don't actually necessarily get into the whole cringeworthy. It doesn't happen to them as often. Women bosses don't always take that position, neither do men, but women are fewer and far between, so they don't have to tolerate that bad behavior from that one bad female boss out of 100. On the other hand, there's 1,000 male bosses for the 100 female bosses, and 100 of them are doing that cringe behavior. And the problem for the young woman that I'm talking about, and all young women, and having been one, I promise you, is when people touch you that you don't want, that just come in and bear hug you or touch you from behind and hug on you and grab on you like that, there is a knee-jerk feeling in your body where it just clenches up, and there's just this cringe. And a lot of you will sit there and go, oh, well, she's single because she acts like she doesn't want to be touched, and she acts all cringy, and she gets like, and she gets all stressed, and she rambles on, and it's all her fault. It never occurs to you people that the reason she's acting like that is because her boundaries at work have not been respected. And because her boundaries at work are not being respected in her personal life, she solidifies those boundaries and makes very clear that those boundaries are solid. I don't like to be touched. I don't like to be hugged. Because she's trying to regain her own dignity and respect because you let some jerk that works for you touch her or works with you, or even your boss, touch your employee inappropriately and make her feel like that cringe feeling that now follows her into her personal life. You can't just completely disconnect that disrespect of your boundaries. And so she's hyped up when she talks about it. She's upset. And in her personal life, she sets solid wall boundaries, which keep her from being able to have normal physical hugs with normal personal friends. And you've allowed someone to take that away from her because you won't enforce boundaries in a professional environment. I know exactly how she feels, and it's been years for me to learn to hug people again. And I felt awful because I had 3 little boys that probably needed more hugs more often in hindsight. Not that they didn't get hugs, but what you allow other people to take away from someone by letting somebody just plow through their boundaries like that. I don't know who's worse. Is it the jackass who just plows through those boundaries knowing nobody's going to stop him? Or the jackass standing there letting him do it and making excuses for his piss poor behavior? I don't know which one of you is actually worse. Because the damage to that young woman or even young man, that's not going away like that. Over time, it becomes solidified in their personal lives and their professional lives. That cringe feeling overwhelms them, like it was overwhelming this young woman. And to be honest, she needed a hug, but you've taken away that basic human feeling that every one of us needs at some point. And she has probably your father. She could go and say, I need a hug. But you've taken away her ability to maybe have someone in her life, one of her friends hug her, because they know they don't want to step that solid wall and infringe on her security and her safety zone, because it's being infringed on regularly at work. No young woman is working so that she can be all hugged on like she's a stuffed animal. Especially around the holidays. If you're a boss, if you're a manager, do better, damn it. Seriously. And if you are that young woman or even that young man that you got unwanted contact at work, lean back. Put your hand out. If you put your hand out, you know they're coming in for a hug. It makes it difficult. They actually have to slap your arm away. I've had them slap my arm away and hug me anyway. But at least you've made your point. And unfortunately, a lot of them at that age, going back to you bosses and managers again, at that age, they don't have the ability just to tell you and your job and everybody to fuck off and go find another job. Especially not right now. We talk about how great the economy is. Oh, but the kids don't have jobs. Those companies don't hire them and don't pay them what they're worth. So if they have a job that they like, they're not going to want to quit. It's your job and your responsibility to protect them. Especially this time of year. So, think about it. Peace.